we are going to be talking about the link between prosperity gospel and hustle culture. So let's get into it. Hey there, Christina Hooper here. Welcome back. I hope you had an amazing weekend. We are in part 4 of the series of the truth behind the prosperity gospel, new hustle culture, new thought, all those things, and I'm super excited. This is a big one, and I feel like I've been building up to this because entrepreneurs, and if you met me here, I started my journey of the whole work from home life and the dream of, like creating this whole work from home space, and all my dreams coming true. And I ended up walking into this space of like hustle culture, right? All right, so let's do a little bit of a recap because I had a pretty amazing weekend. It was my husband's birthday on Friday, so we had a ball. And so now we're back on the grind because we are uncovering the truth behind all of this chaos so that we can make very logical decisions when it comes to our day-to-day, us as Christians. And so now, if you've been following me, if you have not, this is an entire series. This is part 4. And so, it starts with me sharing my journey a little bit, going from prosperity gospel into hustle culture. And I'm pretty sure a lot of Christians, have found themselves in that exact same spot. Part 2 is where we took a deep dive into new thought. And so I introduced to, I find it, the book, Happy Lies, so by Melissa Dougherty. And this is that's the theme for this entire series. So I say go get the book. It is absolutely amazing. It will give you a clear understanding of what this theology is and how it has impacted our world, you guys. And so that we're able to get back on the grind of what it truly means to be a Christian and not be so self-absorbed about self and getting what we want, right? And so but part 2 is where I dive in and I talk about, where it stemmed from. And then last week on Friday, we took a deep dive talking about the difference between faith and manifestation. Okay. So manifestation is about, self-manifesting new and where we create our own thoughts, we put it out there and then boomerang comes right back because we said it would. And then of course there is biblical faith, and that is trusting in God based off of his word and what he says what faith is, right? And that tends to marry within this theology of new thought. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the link between prosperity gospel and hustle culture. Okay, so getting started, let's define what is this hustle culture, because I know that if you haven't seen, there are a lot of people who are doing a lot of trainings and videos and things that are trying to encourage people to, not overwork and to not, end up in this state of burnout. I mean, I remember there's just this moment where just everything was just about burnout because people were burning out after, grinding, and it's supposed to be like, oh, where we reach this goal, and then you don't, and then you're just grinding year after year, grind, like your marriage suffers, your children suffer, you suffer, your health suffers, everything suffers, the business suffers ultimately because you're suffering, but let's look at what is hustle culture. Hustle culture glorifies non-stop work, so productivity and achievements as the ultimate measure of success. Okay, so this is like rise and grind, work, everybody has the same amount of 24 hours in a day. So that means that you should be what they can do in 24 hours, you should be able to reach that level. Like, really? Because do I really have the same kind of 24 hours as a single individual who's not married as being married and with 4 children? I think our days would be quite different. And then also like what we're actually doing, and then also having assistants to do a lot of things, or nannies, or all kinds of things. There's just so many variables here. You know what I mean? Like, yes, everybody has the same 24 hours, but a lot can transpire within those 24 hours, right? The distance to get to work, and if you got to sit in traffic, like, okay, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. Okay, and then if you're not working, someone else is outworking you. So I have to tell you, I grew up in a household that was, work oriented. Like, everybody's always working out, or working for work, and then working for like self as an entrepreneur. Like, that's what I grew up with. So I don't know what it's like to just not work. Like, I mean, I'm talking bedridden and still trying to figure out ways to try and like still be productive. Like, I remember when I first started dating my husband again before we got married, and he's just like, would you just sit down? Like, I didn't know. I was just like, I don't know, maybe it was that the idle hands, or idle hands is the devil's workshop, or mind is the devil's workshop, or, like idle hands. It's the same stuff about idle hands. Like, I don't know what it was, but I just feel like it just kept with me. Like I always got to be busy. I always got to be doing something. And I still am like that today to an extent. But then you fall into this state of never having rest, right? And then making excuses as to why it's so necessary. Like, I'm talking like just severe pain and still working through it. Like, there is something wrong with that. There's literally something wrong with that. We are slaves in our own lives. Like, that is not normal. That is just not normal. And we're voluntarily doing this to ourselves. So that is typically what hustle culture is, okay? The thing about hustle culture is that it teaches that your value is tied to your output. So like what you put out, that is your value, okay? And then what you do, how much you achieve, and how hard you work, like that depicts like your value, okay? And that is problem that can ultimately become a problem, because what if you cannot be as productive, or what if you can't put out as much as previously before? Then it's like you got to work harder. Then you got to then you just need to do more. You need to get more clients. You need to you need to market more. You need to you need to spend more hours doing what is necessary. You need to make more calls, or whatever the thing is. Like, it's just like you just got to do more, because that's how you're going to reach and achieve this goal. And the fire behind it is just stuff, money, house, materialistic things. That is the root behind it. And I think because the thing is there anything wrong with working towards reaching a goal? Absolutely not. But when you're talking about getting to a place where it just becomes obsessive, it just becomes so obsessive, like literally, because in this hustle culture, there's vision boards, there's affirmations, and this is whole process. You wake up and you write in your little journal, you write your affirmations, you post the post-its all over your mirror, and you keep telling yourself, and you get on that treadmill and you just run, like, and then you just get off, and then you wake up and you do it again, rinse and repeat, and at some point you got to get off. You have to get off, but then it's just like, oh, but then you won't reach, then it's going to take you longer to reach whatever goal. And then sometimes, do you ever even really reach that goal? Most people don't. And that's just reality. Most people don't. Okay. And but this isn't just a secular idea. So many churches, and this concept is not just in a secular world. This is also fed into the church, okay? Spiritualized hustle culture. Okay, so teaching that God rewards effort, ambition, and financial success in a way that aligns with the prosperity gospel. So, again, if you have not seen my testimony about how, like the rankings of like, the status and how you're treated, from the top is based off of what your success, you know what I mean? Like, you get somebody who, because they're like, they're dropping, big bucks that they just walk in and everybody's just like, oh, like I want to reach that level one day so that, like the pastor will look at me like that because I'm, doing all of these things, right? Or when you've got, someone that's constantly flashing all of these things in front of you and saying like, look how God blessed me. He could bless you too like this, but you got to work for it. You've got to grind, get an extra job, like, do whatever it takes so that you can, you meet that pledge, and so you'll see that even in the church. And I know I witnessed it myself, and it does. The point is that, hey, just wanted to pop in for a quick break. Are you a business owner or entrepreneur and you are looking to create your website or your course for your business or your ministry? If that is you, then I want you to stop right now, pause this video, and go visit me at cmhcompany.com. I actually partner with Kajabi, and they have an amazing all-in-one platform that is just really, really inexpensive, that allows you to have everything you need all in one place so that you can seamlessly coach and train and have a community, and you can meet with people all over the world, and it is absolutely wonderful. And what I do is just make sure everything looks good and runs smoothly. So if that is you, definitely check me out at cmhcompany.com. All right, back to the video. The main purpose of the church is to spread the gospel, not to line our pockets, not to get a bunch of stuff and have it here. It's like the stuff is here. There are some things that are nice. There's things that we may like. We can, believe God for it, or be able to obtain it. Some people can, some people can't, That is just how and I like to call it a weed because that's what it is, because it just kind of like infiltrates it into, all of these different things throughout culture, whether it's secular or it's, or it's the church, So let's talk about prosperity gospel and its role in hustle culture, because the prosperity gospel teaches that God wants you to be successful and wealthy, that you are guaranteed to be successful and wealthy if you have faith the size of a mustard seed. And it's you that has the power to be able to manifest these things into your life, because you have enough faith, right? That you have that power. God's given you that power. If you're struggling, it's because of a lack of faith. Okay. And that's what prosperity gospel teaches. And like I said, for me, that was a traumatizing thing, like realization, that was, put upon me, it's just like, you hurt yourself or this thing happened, and it's like, yeah, it's your own doing because, you don't have enough faith. So while you've got hustle culture, it's like, okay, well, you're not doing this because of like, you're not thinking positive enough. You're not working hard enough. And then you've got prosperity gospel, and it's like, oh, well, because you don't have enough faith, right? You need to have more faith, and you need to plant more seeds, and, meaning like, spend more money in order to get, blessings become transactional. If you sow money, time, effort, you will reap wealth, success, and favor. That's what prosperity gospel teaches, Now, the thing is that this creates a spiritual version of hustle culture. It is literally a spiritual version of hustle culture. Okay? So believers, they feel pressure, like constantly proving their faith through their works, giving more to do more. Does that sound familiar? Like, give me a line, I just believe that there's 5 people in this room that, are being led by God to give $1,000 right now, to give $10,000 right now. I know that it's you. It's in your account. You're wrestling with it. God said, give, and it shall be given unto you. Pressed down, shaken together, and running over, And they'll use that. You feel guilty if you struggle. Like you literally feel guilty. Like, it's like, I don't understand. Like, I'm just working so hard, and I just don't understand why I can't get this, or why I can't have a baby, or why I can't, get this job, or have this house, or get married, or, like, I'm believing, I have faith, I'm believing, but it's not happening. Like, I don't understand why. And then the person is struggling, and they're having difficulty with this because this is the theology that they're being taught. And so I want to encourage, because God does not want us to, he says he will not put more on us than we can bear. He did not declare us to be, all little gods down here that just, with our own might get to just manifest these different things. And you know what I mean? You're putting more pressure and more weight on yourself than what God has even given us. This is a yoke, this is bondage that we're finding ourselves in within hustle culture. And when we're constantly like, we're so attached to our laptops and our computers to where we can't leave, like we can't walk away. At some point we have to understand, like this is not what God called me to do. He did not call me to, to be a slave in my own business, to be a slave in my own, in my church, because that is not what he called us to do. He called us to go and share the good news. Okay, so here's some examples of how this plays out in church settings. So tithing promises, so promising like when you tithe that you are just going to instantly reap a reward, right? Or a blessing. Work-based Christianity, so it's like, like depending on like you work by you, being a part of the ministry, you giving, you're sowing time, you're sowing money, and then performance-driven faith. So like how your faith is performing. So that's like, okay, your faith is performing excellently because, you're getting and doing the things that are, that you're believing God for, and your faith is big enough, right? Or it's working, or your faith isn't because you're just not giving as much as you should as anticipated, or because of what you had claimed, right? Prosperity gospel distorts grace by turning it into something we earn rather than we receive. Like, can we just marinate in that for a minute? Like, because we did not earn grace. It was a gift, not by our works. God said in Ephesians 2, 8 and 9. Like, work itself, God, he gave us, he gave a job off from jump, right? So work is not a bad thing. Work is good. But in hustle culture, what we find is that this is not just toiling. This is literally being a slave to yourself, to your mind, to your goals, to your stuff, to the things you want in the future, And so we work as an act of stewardship and obedience, not to prove our value. So it's about being where you are with what you have, being a good steward, okay, of what you have, and being obedient, right? Obedient, listening to God, being obedient, and being a good steward. Whether you are wealthy or whether you are poor, it's about being a good steward and being obedient to what God would have called us to be. Because Jesus came to save not just the poor. He came to save everyone, to give. And so when he calls you, then that means that he wants you to not only be obedient, but he wants you to be a good steward of what you are and what you have, and let him guide you. Not you take the reins and you decide, okay, well, I'm going to live my best life, and then I'm getting this, and this, and I'm going to claim it, name it and claim it, and my faith is big enough to get what I want, and God give me what I want. Like, no, that is not how it works, okay? We also have to recognize that God gave us a Sabbath, right? He believes in us resting, okay? He believes in us taking a rest. It is actually a commandment for us to rest. So if you look in Exodus 28 through 11, the Sabbath was a gift for us, not a burden. It was a gift for us because he don't want us to be a slave to anyone, right? And so Jesus calls us to rest in him, not strive for approval. Matthew 11, 28 through 30. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. Learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Who are we proving ourselves to? Most of the time when we're on social media and stuff, we're proving ourselves to whoever is in the audience and who's listening, who's paying attention. Like, prove, when we should be a light spreading the gospel, planting those seeds, the right seeds, not the seeds to get what you want, but the seeds to help to plant seeds so that people can come to Christ, right? Like, that's the type of seeds that we should be focusing our attention on. Okay. And so scriptures that like literally counters hustle culture. Ephesians 2:8-9. That's what I was just talking about. We are saved by grace, not by works. Colossians 3:23. Work as for the Lord, not for the worldly approval. Psalms 127:1-2. If the Lord isn't building it, striving is in vain. Really appreciate that one, right? Because I know that's something that I had to do. Like, anybody is on this channel, they know I had to God called. He called and told me, you need to get yourself together. We need to be holding each other accountable. Okay. Like, look, I'm going to be sharing some things here, and let's hold each other accountable as Christians and be like, okay, look now, it's time to rest. It's time. Like, this is why the church is so important, to encourage each other, to support each other, so that we can make sure that we are not putting ourselves in these spaces, because the truth of the matter is that it is a trick of the enemy. It's a way for him to pull generations away from God. And so our job is to pray, is to seek him, is to get in his word, and to make sure that we are following and doing what God will call, being obedient and being a good steward and spreading the gospel and what God will call us to do. And I'm so grateful for this. One key thing I want you to take away is that, being successful and wealthy and healthy is not a sign of God's blessings and God loving someone and bestowing more on them. And just as much as someone who is struggling, who is unhealthy, someone who is having difficulty is a sign of God's rejection. The fact is that that's just not the truth. It is deception. It is deception to the utmost, because God gives us peace. He gives us peace, and we lean on him in those struggles, in those moments where we are struggling. Just like we praise and we give honor and glory, and he is there during our happy times. Like, either way, he gets the glory. And that is what is most important here. And so we always have to kind of take a little pause and go, wait a minute. Am I in line with what God will have me to be? Am I being obedient? Or am I, in my flesh? Is flesh taking hold and taking and meaning self, and thinking about only me, and not focusing on what God has called us to do, because that is what is most important. And we have to have that reminder every single day. And so I am just so grateful for this series, because while I'm sharing this, I am going through this for myself as well, and keeping myself accountable and recognizing. And I appreciate actually taking the time to really dive in and study this. I am so glad that you stayed with me today. My hope is, again, that this is really helpful to you. We are going to be diving into part 5, which is happening on Wednesday. Also, make sure that you grab the book, because it's Happy Lies. Make sure you get the book. That is the book for this series that I am talking about. Definitely get the book. And I encourage you, because we need to make sure that we educate ourselves on what's going on around us, so that we can our eyes are open. Okay. Our eyes are open and prayerful, very prayerful, and that the Holy Spirit leads us and gives us the discernment when it comes to these different things, especially as parents, and what we have around our children. So that's what's really important. And so I want to just encourage you, remember that God is enough, and that he gives you the peace that passes all understanding. And don't allow this new thought hustle culture and this prosperity gospel to take you down a path that is just simply not what God will have for us. And I hope that you have an amazing start to your week. And I will see you in another episode. Bye-bye.